All right, Bronco Nation news. We continue our look at the Mountain West basketball in the summer series, and the coaches doubling up for Lindy's Magazine. 34 stories I think I'll be writing for Lindy's Magazine this summer, Coach. So you're going to be reading plenty of Big 12, Mountain West. I'm doing the women's college basketball stuff as well. So busy summer, getting ready for football, but it's going to be fun. I love basketball. It's by far my favorite sport, so nothing wrong with talking to coaches and talking hoops in the summer, and we get a chance here with one that all of our viewers here know very well, Coach Leon Rice, Boise State. Coach, appreciate your time here on Bronco Nation News. How we doing?
Yeah, we're counting down the days already, and that's kind of been a tradition of ours, especially in this basketball family. And I'm sure a lot of other people do it the same way. You always get excited for those magazines, and there's 365 teams to read about, and Lindy's does a great job with it every year. I think because they do a good job of getting guys like you that actually know the conference and know, instead of just, sometimes we get that East Coast bias and they don't really know us, but
yeah,
we rush out and buy those magazines as soon as they hit the stores. And, I think less and less places are carrying magazines, so they're harder to get, but
yeah,
always kind of an exciting time. You got football starting and all the basketball information, and it's maybe my favorite time of the year.
No doubt, no doubt, and it is a chore, Coach, to go through some of these rosters. I mean, I'm trying to figure out which players are back, who's gone, what these teams look like. I mean, some of these Mountain West teams are having 8, 9, 10 new scholarship players, and it is just crazy. I mean, I had one coach even during the interview go, "Can we pause it for a second so I can look at my roster again?" Like, I mean, it is crazy with the turnover in this league, and I guess just with the new way of college basketball, that's how it's going to be.
Yeah, and it's funny because I saw one team in our league ranked higher than us, and in one of those random preseason polls, and I wanted to call the person who did it and said, "Okay, can you name 5 people on their team or 2?" And I bet they couldn't. It's just there's just such a shift, and even us, we have a lot of stability in our team, because when you're anchoring it with 2 all league players, that's a great place to start. And then, you're able to build around those guys. But we're got 8 guys that did not play last year that are going to play, most of them. And they're all looking great, but that is quite a turnover. And like I said, we're one of the most stable ones.
Yeah. Two starters back, and yet it's you're returning some of the most talent in the league. It is crazy. But you look at your roster, and one of the stories I'm doing, we'll just start with Tyson, because one of the stories I'm doing is on Tyson. They're ranking him as one of the top players in the country in the Lindy's Magazine. I don't know, the final number hasn't come out yet, but he'll be top 25, top 35, player in the country probably for Lindy's. And in this day and age, he's going to be a rare breed. 4 years. Same school. I think I saw whether it was Jeff Grammer or Ziegler, one of those guys, freshman of the year in the Mountain West to finish his career at that school. It's only happened like 3 or 4 times. I mean, it just doesn't happen in this day and age in the Mountain West, where the freshman of the year ends up staying all 4 years at that same school, and it's going to be less and less now. What does it say about Tyson? I know he downplayed it with me, the interest he got from other schools, because he said, "Oh, they don't have my number because I was recruited early and I didn't have to deal with anybody." But a guy like that, if he wanted to, could have had his pick of the litter of schools and money and everything going on. And I don't think that's some secret to say. The fact that he is here and he's going for the all-time scoring record potentially, and he's going to be one of those legendary Boise State players. What does that say about him and how cool that is in this day and age?
Yeah, it's really remarkable what you just said. I didn't even think about that, the freshman of the year. And I bet it'll never happen again where a freshman of the year has 4 years. I mean, he's going to do something that's never going to happen again. And so I think it starts with what we need to have a gratitude about Tyson and appreciation for him, which I think our fans do, but it needs to take another level, because like you just said, he could have gone anywhere in the whole country. Anybody could use a Tyson Degenhart. Now, for him, it's been a great fit, and for us, it's been a great fit. And when you're able to deliver all the things that you wanted to deliver, and we're not done yet. We got some more things we want to deliver for Tyson, but through the recruiting process, all the things we talked about, he's on track to hit all those. And it's just been a great journey for him. And, he's a guy that we do appreciate. And, hopefully we build a statue of him someday out in front of the extra mile.
Well, I still think, I mean, I know you guys don't control the arena, whatever, but I still think at some point some numbers need to be hanging in the rafters up there at Extra Mile Arena. And he is certainly a guy, if he has the season he has this year, that he's had the last 3 years, would have to be in the conversation there if he's a top 5 all-time. I mean, all he has to do, Coach, I know he says he's not going for that. I know you guys aren't going for that. It's a team game. I get it. You want to win games, but one more point per game than he had last year, and he'll be the all-time leading scorer at Boise State by the end of the year. I mean, that is really saying something with some of the players that have come through here. But you throw in his character and what he does off the field or off the court, and just all the other things. You just talk to him, and you think he's 35. I mean, that combination. I know you recruit very high character guys. A lot of all the guys in your program are high character guys. Always come over when I'm in the gym and shake my hand and say hello. I mean, you obviously have a lot of guys like him, but his combination of on the court with his off the court, it seems like one of a kind.
It really is. And everyone that meets him says the same thing. And when you first meet him, you're like, wow, is this guy, is this guy real? Because he is that way. And he's just such a great leader, such a great teammate. He's almost too selfish when it comes to basketball, because when you're such a good player, you got to have that ability to, hey, you might have to shoot some bad shots now and then when you're the best player, but when you're that good, you have that ability to make bad shots. And Tyson is such an unselfish guy and high IQ that he'll never take a bad shot. So I think that's one of the things we got to get him a little more comfortable with, like he and Omar, because you're talking about two of the best players in the league. They have to err on the side of aggressiveness. And the great thing about them is their teammates will support that. It's, sometimes you get a guy and he's taking bad shots. His teammates are looking like, what are you doing? But when you get a guy like Tyson or Omar doing it, it's like, oh, go, you deserve it. And they also believe that they're going to make them, because they will.
Yeah, I don't know the numbers exactly, but there'd be a lot of games where you'd look up and he'd have 5 points at halftime, but when the game's over, he had 23. And it was like, what take 6 more shots in the first half, you would have had 33. But on the court, though, one more about Tyson, Coach. You're moving him a little more to the perimeter this year, play some more of the three. I know his 3-point percentage maybe hasn't been quite at times what he wants it to be, and I know we've seen it in practice. We know he can, is going to be a stronger 3-point shooter. I mean, is this he says no doubt this is going to be the best year of my career. He's been working on pick and roll stuff and some different, rising and shooting type stuff to be more of a perimeter player in the summer here. How do you look at him on the court as a senior, his potential here, and how the move to the perimeter a little more, may help him or affect his game?
Yeah, you hit it on the head. Usually what you see, I'll see these guys doing some stuff in practice that just hasn't shown up in games yet. It just takes, a habit and more reps doing it. And that's one of the things that jumps out at me with Tyson is his ability to shoot the three hasn't showed up to the level that he can do it yet. I mean, he's one of the best shooters we've ever had here. And that's saying something. I mean, you're talking about Justinian, Buzo, Max, all these great shooters that we've had, and guys that had great years shooting the ball, but I think Tyson could be one of the best. And so that I think that will help him be a little more on the perimeter. Doesn't mean he's not going to go post, because that's where he's a handful, but with more size on our roster, he doesn't have to play the 5. And think about that. He played the 5 2 years ago. He was the 5 and Najee was the 4. I mean, we were small, and so I think it'll really help him with his development, his game at the next level. Be able to show his versatility, because he's always had it. He's developed it even more now, and he's just moved. Him and Tyler have done such a great job together. Tyler Whitmer, our strength coach, he's moving differently. He looks fluid and like a guard, light on his feet, without losing his strength and his toughness. And so it just gives us some great versatility when you can put him at any position.
I mean, yeah, you see your team walking by, coach. I mean, he's one of the smaller players on the team now. And that's not a bad thing on Tyson. I'm just saying, like all the height you've added. I think your average height's over 6'7". I mean, it's got to be, if not the tallest team you've ever had at Boise State, one of them for sure. I mean, 3 players under 6'7", I think, on your roster. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think about the height and the length that you've had too. Not just the height, but the length in terms of getting in the passing lanes and altering shots and things. But you mentioned Omar, and I don't know how much when the transfer portal. I mean, I know the second transfer rule that's allowed. But I mean, he was another guy that I assume if he was on the open market would have had a lot of schools again interested in him. You guys found him. You saw his potential from St. John's and the role that he could play and that he could be a more impactful player. And you guys found that, and it proved to be the case. And now you get another year in your system with him. I mean, I think back to that San Jose State game where it was him and Amy going back and forth in San Jose, and he just took over that game. I mean, you were down 9 with 10 minutes left in that game. You might have been down 29 if Omar hadn't kind of taken over there at one point in the first half to keep it kind of close. I mean, a heck of a first year for him. What's the ceiling for Omar here in year 2?
Well, that was kind of his coming out party as far as showing what he can do. And the other thing that you got to remember, and people don't know, Omar played with a broken foot last year. And, when you have that much pounding and, he's a big guy and that's a lot of weight pounding on that foot, the surgery went remarkably well, I think. And he's going to be able to play pain-free. He didn't do that all last year. And I mean, I was just keeping my fingers crossed all year long about his ability to keep playing. I could have seen a scenario where he would have been shut down. And that would have been devastating for our team. Well, now it's healthy. Now it's great. We're really, really slow playing him this summer and working on his skills without a lot of the pounding. And he's going to be ready to go. He's going to, he's settled into our system. He's settled into kind of knowing his strengths and how to play. And now with a year to work on it and a summer to work on it, you're going to see a whole new Omar. And I mean, he was an
scary coach. That's scary.
It is. He was an all-conference player last year. So, like I said, when you have an anchor of those two guys, you're starting with, I mean, that's a great year. 40% of your team is 2 of the best players in the league. And that's a great place to start. Now, the challenge will be you're adding a bunch of new guys, and that's always a challenge. And so there's a lot of question marks that we have to answer, and that we have to, there's always a two-way adjustment. We have to adjust to them, but they have to adjust to each other and the system. And it does take time. So we want to be able to speed that up as quick as we can. And because those games, in the old days, sometimes November games weren't as important. Well, now you can put some resume wins on there, and we got some great opportunities in November. Those games are important. So you got to get those 8 new guys up to speed as quickly as you can and gelling together.
I'll ask you about a couple of those in a second, but one more returner, Andrew Meadow. I mean, we saw flashes of him. I mean, you maybe don't beat VCU without him hitting a couple of shots. You maybe don't beat St. Mary's without those back-to-back threes that he hit. I mean, he had some huge shots as a freshman. Obviously was playing behind, some great players and didn't get a ton of playing time at times, but I know that part of your excitement for this season is the breakout season he could potentially have. How excited are you for Andrew Meadow?
Well, there hasn't been many guys. I mean, we've had workers in this program. It's what our program, the blue collar mentality. He's amazing. He's like a machine, how much he works. I always kind of got to back him off a little bit. Sometimes Summer's great for that. He gets up more shots than anybody on the team, and that's saying something. Nobody can keep up with him. And that's why he's a great shooter. But he loves basketball, loves to work. And, he's just going to be a guy that just steadily gets better and better and better. And he's becoming one of the best shooters on the team.
You mentioned 2 of the top players in the conference. You throw in Alvaro Cardenas, and you got, I think, 3 of the top 5 or players in the conference, according to some metrics. BartTorvik.com, I know, ranks that in terms of production. But 2 returning starters, but you're returning one of the best players in the Mountain West. Or adding him to your team, but a returning player. Just adding a point guard like that, it just seems like for what you're looking for. And he is the perfect fit for what you guys are looking for. And I guess that was evident in your eyes by Mike Burns, barely a day after you lost to Colorado, seeing it necessary to go meet him there in San Jose and have lunch with him. I mean, you guys saw a fit there. You wanted him, and it seems like I think he, is going to be I don't even know if underrated is fair. I feel like he's not getting talked about as much as he should, in my opinion, at least amongst folks that in terms of the impact he could have. But now that he's, in the spotlight a little more and has a chance to show his game, I think he could have a heck of a year for you.
Well, he was a guy, if he would have been, and it's hard to get a lot of all league players if you haven't won a lot of games. Those usually go to the team's top of the standings, and he was certainly deserving of being an all league player last year. And credit to Coach Miles and those guys. They found they dug him out, and that I think our staff takes a lot of pride in our evals and being able to find guys that are undervalued. And I think that's what they did with Al. And he's just a great point guard that has an amazing feel, and he loves to be a point guard. He wants to make others better. I think he's a guy, he averaged 5.5 assists a game last year. And on this team with the kind of scores that we have, I could see him contending, in the nation, leading the nation in assists. And that's what this team needed. And, that's what we were able to go out and get. So excited about him.
Yeah, I don't think he fits the category of like, oh, yeah, he put up stats, but it was on a bad team. Like, no, look at what he was doing in terms of the assists and some of the other things. And it wasn't like he was out there just shooting 30 times a game, but his percentage from three and some of the other things that he did. And I talked to Tim Miles last week for this series, and he was, as expected, ultimately, respectful and nice of Alvaro and wishing him the best, except for the 2 times, or maybe 3 that you guys play them. But he said that Boise State fans are absolutely going to love him and that he's the perfect fit for your team. And he's, was sad to see him go, but thinks he's going to flourish here at Boise State. Coach, the final couple things for you, just the other newcomers. I'll just throw it into one big question if you can touch on some of them. And I know Dylan and Javen, the 2 headliners you're really excited about, but I know you added some other intriguing guys, whether it be, guys coming off red shirts or freshmen that you added. I know you mentioned a lot of guys you expect to contribute now and in the future. And I know that there's a lot of other intriguing pieces that you're excited about adding to this roster.
There is. I mean, we've only went through 3 of them, and there's a lot we're excited about. And Chris Lockett and Emmanuel, who both of them redshirted last year, and they are hungry and they are great. They're good players, and that it's almost, this day and age, it's almost a draft and stash. Like, people forgot about those 2. They're good basketball players, and I'm excited to get them on the court. Then the 2 freshmen are doing a terrific job, and then you'd mentioned some of these transfers. So but again, it's always a challenge to put that many new guys together. And I think my staff did a great job of going out and recruiting a bunch of high character guys that want to play together. And I don't know if I've had a team that's bonded. We've had some tight teams the last couple of years. That's why we won. But I don't think I've had a team that's bonded as quickly as this group. And when, that can be hard, because when you get a lot of great players, there's usually some confidence and egos and agendas that come along with that. And not with these guys. It's amazing. We found the right guys that will represent us the right way, that will care about the team the right way. And, their parents are buying into the plan, and, it has the making to be a really cohesive team. And that's the challenge, is we got to get it to be a cohesive team as quickly as we can. And it looks like we're off to a good start with that.
If we say Alvaro Cardenas is the perfect point guard for you, I'd have to say that Dylan Anderson seems like the perfect 5-man for you too. I mean, just with his ability to shoot from the outside and the things that you like to have your big men do, it seems like he was a really nice get as well.
Yeah, no, that was crucial. That, big men are a commodity, and they're now in this day and age, developed and little bit older big men are so important to get, because, if you took we took some young bigs back in the day, and they got better and better and better throughout their career here. But to get a guy that's, a little advanced, and like I said, he's 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year. in the state of Arizona. I mean, he did something to get that. He was a highly recruited kid out of high school, and he was highly recruited on the transfer market. So, but this is a great fit for him. He made a great decision. You know, when you get to play alongside Tyson and Omar, you're going to have some amazing opportunities because they're going to draw a lot of attention. That's going to allow him to grow at the right pace. And but I've seen some great, you know, and really encouraging things that he's been able to do. And along with all these other guys, you know, you haven't even mentioned, we haven't even mentioned this freshman. And you know, RJ Keene's making progress, and we're so happy with the two freshmen that, you know, they are OKGs, our kind of guys. And
you got three with Ethan, coach.
Right. You forget because we had Ethan late. That's right.
He's the one I might be intrigued about the most, watching him walk by and his wingspan and stuff. Man, wow.
No, and he's been terrific too. That he, you know, he's a young big guy that we want to invest in and get, and because, you know, next year we do lose Tyson and Omar, and we're trying to plan the best that we can to replace two of the best players to ever play at Boise State. So that's quite a challenge. But getting Ethan and then Dom here, you know, he's here now too. He'll have to sit because of his knee, but that'll allow us to get those two up to speed. You know, so when Tyson and Omar leave, that's you got two talented kids sitting in the wings.
Whether it's E-Man or whether it's Lathan or whoever it ends up being, and you obviously Keene, and you mentioned Lockett and some of these guys. I mean, you know, I know the bench is key for you, and I know at times last year, whether it was me or Prater or whoever, like, you know, the bench production, we kind of pointed that out, and it gave you a little heat, I guess, at times about riding not playing the bench guys as much. And you said, hey, bench guys have to earn their playing time. I'm not just going to play them to take another guy off the court to give him an extra minute of a rest. And do you feel like these guys can? Do you have the talent beyond the starting five that you think you hopefully can, that they're going to earn minutes and be good enough to get out there and play? Because I talked to Joe Scott, the Air Force coach the other day, and he's flat out said, like, we wore down at the end of the season. I can't play, you know, Bo Becker and Ethan Taylor and these guys 37 minutes because shots they were hitting in November, they weren't hitting in late February and early March. And how do you feel about the depth of this team going into the season?
Yeah, I think we had pretty good depth last year. You know, you always want the one more. But because when you got guys like Tyson and Omar, you really don't want to take them out, and they don't want to. I mean, a big part of that is being able to get those guys minutes at some point along the way, where you're not playing every game that you have to play them 35. But you know, in the big games, you need your best players out there. You need your best players shooting. You need, you know, I mean, that's important. And but we do have a lot more bodies and a lot more guys that you feel really comfortable. And you do want to invest in some of those young guys because they are in line to take over. So it's actually a really nice mix. You got an older group, kind of, you know, maybe would be your first group, and then you got a lot of young guys, you know, knocking on the door. So number one, you got to have that in case something happens, but also like you said, those guys can come in and win you games, like what you saw with Andrew last year.
Yeah, and like you said, though, nowadays, like that first game against Oakland, you might be up 20 or some random game, you might have a lead, and you want to get these guys, but like a 17-point win versus a 27-point win matters now. So it's like you got to play these. Like, I know some people don't understand that. Like, oh, we need to get these guys more playing time. It's like that's not how this works, and that puts you obviously in a very tough spot because you want to get those guys minutes so they're ready for conference play. But like I said, there's never every game, every second now matters for the metrics and all this stuff. So it's just crazy. But I guess final thing, Coach, we wrap this up. Overall, I mean, you guys, like you said, you're going to be picked first or near the top, I would think, in the conference with what you have coming back. And you've had obviously 3 straight trips to the big dance. I mean, you keep building, like you said, another brick, another step closer. And I mean, you got to feel pretty pleased. It seems like you're very pleased and excited about the potential for this team.
Yeah, and just the guys too, that, like you said, that you picked up on it right away. First time you walk into the gym, you're like, this group is exciting to be with. They're fun to coach. They're driven. You know, it's going to be a fun year for me and for these guys. That doesn't mean it's not going to have its challenges. I mean, we're going to have big challenges to get 8 new guys and the guys that we have clicking. And that's our job as coaches, and that's their job as teammates. And what I've seen is a group that's really excited to do that. And so, it's going to be a fun year for Bronco Nation. We got a lot of work to do, but I got guys that want to do the work, and they're great to be around. So a lot to be proud of with this group, and people are going to enjoy watching them.
Well, it'll be here before we know it, Coach. We'll be it starts earlier and earlier every year, it seems, with the practices, and you kind of just keep going now with the summer workouts. It doesn't seem like there's ever really an off season, but you got a nice schedule, a nice team. Should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it as always, and appreciate your time here on BNN. And yes, we'll try to get the Lindy's preview to be as, hey, I'm ranking the Big 12 here, Coach. So I mean, we can settle it right now, I guess, if we need to, what it needs to be. But, Sundance Wick said, I hope I pick them last. He said, we want to be DFL. He said, pick us last and put the chip on our shoulder. So we'll see. But I think you guys will be, I can't see right now looking at it how you guys aren't first or at least second. You got to be right there at the top based on how it shakes out. So should be fun. Looking forward to it and appreciate your time, Coach.
All right. Thanks, BJ.